When people that you love are making choices that you know are harmful and you are full of anxiety about those choices, what can you do? There are so many times that whether it's our children, our siblings, our parents, our spouse, our friends, they're making choices that we know are harmful to them, to themselves, to others, maybe to our grandchildren, maybe to their spouses, maybe to the rest of the family. Maybe we're just worried about the way that their choices are impacting themselves and their life and their potential and their future. But there's so much worry and concern and anxiety, and it can consume you. It can consume you to the point where it becomes an obsession to try to get them to change. Maybe it's your child that's dating somebody that you know is not good, or in a marriage where there's abuse and they're not dealing with the abuse and it's impacting your children, grandchildren, or there's alcoholism or drug abuse, or there's some type of thing going on that is hurting your grandchildren. I mean, how do you handle this? Well, I have a class, Transforming Difficult Relationships and Women Thriving in Difficult Marriages, both of which teach some very helpful 10 principles to deal with this. But I'm going to focus on a few to kind of simplify it to maybe you're dealing with this right now. I would highly recommend the classes, but let me just give you a few steps that you can take. First of all, whenever we're struggling with any fear, any anxiety, concern, worry, we need to be aware of the fact that it has turned into that fear or that anxiety and that we're struggling with that, because that anxiety or fear can push us to try to exert control and to be emotionally reactive to the situation. So you've got to admit, okay, I'm very anxious about this. I'm having trouble being at rest. I'm having trouble letting go. I'm having trouble just not thinking about this nonstop. So Philippians 4:6 tells us to cast all our anxiety. Do not be anxious about anything, but in everything, by prayer and petition and thanksgiving, present your request to God, and the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and minds in Christ Jesus. Now, does that mean it instantly goes away? Absolutely not. That is like a surrender or an admission to God that I'm struggling with this and I'm giving the situation to you. And there is a certain amount of peace that comes with knowing that you've turned it over to God, or you're at least attempted to turn it over to God, and inviting God into not only the person's life, but your own anxiety. That doesn't mean it's instantly gone. Do everything you can to influence. Now, we know that Jesus talked about us being salt and light in the world, to bring light into darkness, to let our example be a guide to others. So recognizing that, we need to know that we can choose how we're going to respond to this, and that response can be some type of light or influence. So we can, whether that's confronting, speaking the truth in love, Matthew 18 intervention of bringing the person's sin or problems gently up to them and trying to bring them awareness, or doing our part and being honest about what's going on. That is part of it. And then also, we have to recognize that we have to really recognize trust. I mean, I'm not trust, choice, that each person has been given the ability to choose for themselves by God. That was super important to him. He allowed us to reject him and to sin, bring sin to the whole human race. God values choice. When Jesus was here, he recognized that, or when the rich young ruler came to him and made the choice not to follow Jesus, Jesus let him go. He told him what he needed to do, and the rich ruler made a choice to walk away, and Jesus let him go. He didn't run after him. He recognized that the person has choices, and with that choice comes consequences. We know from Galatians 7 and 8 that we sow to the good, we reap good, we sow to the bad, we reap bad. We have to recognize that people make choices and then they suffer accordingly. And we have to allow the people that we care about to make choices, recognizing we can't force them to be different. And then we have to allow them in love, as God does, to suffer the consequences. We also have to make decisions about what we will and will not do, because we also have choice in how we will respond to those situations. So you may not be able to control the choices that your child is making, but you do have choice over how you will respond. Will you enable? Will you allow them to keep doing what they're doing without any consequences? If you, like, say they're living in your home, or if there's a situation where your grandchildren are being harmed, are you willing to set a boundary and step in? Or, if it's your spouse, are you willing to draw some lines and saying, these are things that I can't live with, and these are things that I can live with. These are things that have to change. You can't change them, but you can make decisions about what you will do about their choices. And then in the midst of all this going on, whether it's your child or your parent doing things that are harmful or your spouse, you have to live your life, even though things are not resolved, things are not fixed, things are continuing to be in a way that is causing you pain and concern. You have to still live your life. You have to go on and live according to how you know is right, but you need to enjoy your life. Ephesians 5:28 says, after all, tells a man to love his wife like he loves his own body. And it says, because after all, no one neglects their own body. We've each been given stewardship over our lives, our time, our talents, and we need to live those lives, use those talents, and take care of ourselves, regardless of what other people are doing. It's not always easy to do that in the midst of that, but you can start small and just start taking care of yourself in one little way. Maybe it's just 10 minutes to sit down and relax, have a cup of tea, take a walk, call a friend, whatever that is. You need to recognize that taking care of yourself, even though other people are not doing what you want them to do, is absolutely essential. So there's so much more that I can teach you in all of these areas, but this is just kind of an idea of what are some things that you can start with and things that you can work on. So you don't have to let the anxiety that you feel, the fear that you feel over someone else's choices dominate your life. There are things that you can do, even though you cannot control their choices or make the person hear your concerns and change. So thank you for watching and for listening. God bless you.